Hello everyone, welcome to this video. Today I'm going to be going over the S&P 500, gold, the euro versus the dollar, Bitcoin, Ethereum, and I'll quickly touch over Kogan as a quick update from the last video. Let's get into it. Firstly, I'm going to be going over the S&P 500 on the weekly time frame. So here you can see the last 2 weeks that I did an analysis, there really hasn't been much movement. Very small bars in comparison to all of these previous bars. Only a few of these bars are just as big here. So my initial thinking is here there can be a bit of exhaustion. I'm not sure if we're going to start to turn and even just come back to this short-term moving average like we did a lot of these times. That's why I like this is the 20 moving average. Once we break up above it, we can see we start to support, break down support, come back, try a little touch, come back, and that's what could be happening here. We have also been in a quite tight bull channel. Once we broke out in here, we've just been in a very tight bull channels, very small pullbacks, and just once we continue up in quite a climax, we come down for a little bit, come down for two, and now it's just been an extreme climax coming up to this point here. Moving over to the daily. Here, one of the things I like to look at is where would the stops actually be at this point? If you had been in a long from your position here, where would your stop be? Now, I'm looking here, my stop would be the last previous higher was here, then we made a low, and then we continued higher. So my stop right here, if I was in any type of long position, would be right there. That would be my instant stop loss if I wanted to get out. Obviously, I could bring it higher and higher, but as my immediate stop loss, if it would have just come through, that's where I would get out. And if you were to do a price from here to there, that's close to 8%. So right here, if you're in a long position, you do have a fair bit of exposure. You have 8% risk. In my strategy here, that's where my stop would be. Since this is new price territory, it's hard to actually say exactly where the price will end up. I like to do best is one-to-one measured moves, where I start to do one-to-one measured moves of bull trend bars and extend it higher, and you can see we did one here and then had a tiny bit of a pullback, but those types of moves are my absolute favorite. Here, looking at just supports and resistances, we do have a bit of a resistance up here. As you can see, we've been poking through it and then coming back down. So again, not 100% if we're going to shoot up to 4,500 or come back down to the 4,000 region. And I do see a support area in here. So right there's been a support, couple of 3 touches in here, and it also does touch around the 4,000 number. So we could come down to the 4,000, wick through, and then have a bit of sideways action. One last thing I do want to touch in is a lot of people talk about sell in May and go away. So right now, the date is the 3rd of May, and although I don't like these cyclical patterns and a lot these yearly patterns and time frame like stuff like that, a lot of people, and if you do a lot of backtesting, the sell in May and go away strategy definitely has some validity in a sense. And we are hitting May. We are at an extreme bull climax. We've just been continuing in a tight bull channel. Then we had a nice break out of the bull channel. You know, how much further can we go? What's our probability to go higher compared to go lower? So that's just something I'm thinking here. Some of these levels below, and there's no real expectation up here. I haven't got any massive one-to-one measured moves that I can really extend beyond this point. So it's all just unplayed territory. Let's move on to the euro versus the dollar. Just scrolling back a couple of years for the euro versus the dollar on the weekly chart, we can see that there is a support here that we did hit early last year, and there is a resistance up here that even we could extend that something like that, because this is a bit of a touch. After we had this massive bear channel downwards, tight bear channel, quite not many pullbacks upside, and just kept going down, an extreme sell-off, that's where we started to turn around. Once we get these extreme climaxes at the end of tight channels, that's usually when there's a blow-off, and we find that the price usually, that will be when basically the sellers from up here are at their most extreme profit, and all of a sudden they've had the most profit in the shortest amount of time, and they're at their most extreme point, they're at a support, and that's where we're going to take. So we need to use all of these strategies to actually enter a trade and be able to profit here. So there is some type of resistance. We can even see in here could potentially come up to a reverse, inverse head and shoulders, because we are at this sort of level in here, and even come back to test some of this breakout in here, because once we had this breakout in here, it's basically just been a straight up move. So again, we just need to see how it's going to play out. But on the flip side, we do have a bit of a support coming in here. As you can see, we've made a high, a high, a high, and this is the low, and we are supporting. So if we continue to make high highs, high lows, high highs, high lows, that would be an awesome sign. Just scrolling in here for the daily chart, you can see that we are in a fair tight bear channel. We were in this channel right here. We came down, read our extreme point here, and then we're coming up. We're also coming to this resistance up here, so that's why we had a bit of a sell-off of nearly 1% the other day. So definitely in a bit of a sideways movement. Basically, to any trade, you sort of want a nice clean breakout below one of these, or a nice clean breakout above one of these, to really get an extended move in a direction. Bitcoin on the weekly chart, you can see we've just had an extreme. Once we broke above and we stayed, we've just been bang, support came up, and now we're actually in a bit of a sideways. As you can see, this is very, very extreme. Now we're starting to be in a bit of sideways action. So we do need to see how tight this channel is. When there's been an extreme buy like this and it's a tight channel, the odds are we just do a little bit of a support and then we continue higher. So we do need to see how this reacts here, how we go off the EMA. Obviously, we are currently bullish because we're in a tight channel to this, a horizontal channel here, and usually that will break to the upside and will continue even here. You can see we broke up, tight horizontal channel, broke up again, horizontal channel, and then just exploded. So we need to see here, this could even be a potential last move of the short-term time frame. So we might have just a little come down here so we can get some of these better prices, but that is never confirmed. But I do expect higher prices based on how we're performing in the last couple of weeks. Here we are on the daily chart, and as you can see, we've scrolled into this horizontal channel. As you can see, we've got a high, and we've got a high, but you can see it's just very sideways movement. It's no explosion like it was back here, exploding up. We're sort of going sideways, a little bit higher, coming down a fair bit, a little bit higher, coming down a fair bit, even coming down to some of these stops here. So a lot of these times when people took a long in here, some of these stops would have been here, and you can see we've just stop chased. We came down, we wicked through. That wick there just proves it stops, because once price reached there, it means we quickly went down, because that's what a stop is. A stop means you're exiting your position. So how do you exit a buy? You have to sell. So a lot of stops would have been in here. Once price reached here, it quickly sprung down, because a lot of stops went to bang, 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 a lot of selling. Then the computers realized, bang, this is a great time to buy. They bought on these 3 bars here, and as you can see, bang, we had a 10% explosion, and then we're just up. So from these lows here, from the stops, a lot of stops, we're up 15%. So you need to understand that some of these strategies, especially when we're in a sideways market, is just a lot of stop hunting. So you need to continue to trade the range, and the range for me would come down from this low and really this middle high, which also does line up with there. So that's the range coming in there. So you do need to be careful and not getting stopped out too much. Any clean break above these 2 highs here, a nice bull green bar like this bar breaking up above, is very bullish, and that's when I'm looking for a long-term long. And any bear, nice clean bear bars coming down but breaking below here, that's when I'd probably look to short as well, because I might be the end of the short-term move and we can catch a nice little profit. I also want to go over Ethereum on the weekly and daily. As you can see, it looks quite different to Bitcoin. We did have a bit of a sideways movement here, but as you can see now, we've actually continued to explode, and we're continuing to make higher highs, where Bitcoin is in this sort of phase here where we're going a little bit sideways. But this sideways movement again exploded. So as you can see, this 20 EMA on every time frame definitely acts as a lot of support. So anytime we do get a clean break below it, and then we start doing a resistance or support off of it, that's when an entry needs to be made. So here, just continuing to look bullish, as you can obviously make a one-to-one just from that bar there and then extend it out. So instant one-to-one target of close to 3,600. So we're currently at 3,100. So potential 15 to 16% profit is what is telling me on this weekly chart. Now zooming in much closer on the daily chart for Ethereum, as you can see, once we got our break here, we've just been supporting, we've come up, we came through, had a couple tries, we tried some stops testing here, we came straight back up, and now we're continuing higher. So if I was just to scroll in here, just to have my one-to-one target is obviously bullish because I've had the most bullish trend bars. This is only one bullish bearish trend bar. That one's a doji, that one's a doji, that one's a doji. That's another one, but it would come down to support here. The only ones I have is these three here. That's a bullish trend bar, bullish trend bar, bullish trend bar. That one is a doji bar because the actual bar of the body is less than 50% of the entire candle, starting from the top here to the bottom here. So we do an extension there. I do teach a lot more about that in my course. We extend that up here. That's our daily one-to-one targets. We're actually coming up to it now. So back here on the 27th of April, we had a one-to-one target, and we're actually coming up to it now. So what could happen is we actually hit here. We do get a short-term retracement on the daily, but then on the weekly, we still have this weekly bar that will extend. So in the shorter term time frame, we'll have a better price to actually enter at, and on the weekly, we might get a little bit of a thing on the daily and then come straight back up. So we could even get an entry at a lower price for a greater profit. Lastly, I want to go over gold. I actually do hold some gold, and not in actual physical gold. I hold some stocks in the Australian stock market related to gold. As Australia is very resource mineral heavy, we actually have a lot of companies that, you know, have a good potential when they're buying some land and have the potential when they do drilling and exploration. And that's why I've always been interested in gold. And some people have asked me to do a video, so I'll also just chuck this in here. As you can see, gold, if we just scroll out, very tight. So just bull, bit of a meltdown, try to come here, a bit of a stop, and just continued higher. And right now we're in a bit of a tight bear channel here for the last nearly year. So we're basically in a tight channel here, coming across and just coming across. So really what we'd like to see, we can even get a bit of a wedge here. So some three pushes, 1, 2, 3, even 1, 2, and 3. And as you can see here, we've had a higher, we came down, we supported, and we made another higher high. So what really I'd like, if I wanted to go long here, I would like the price to potentially come down a little bit and actually support. And then I want a clean break of here, and that's when I'm going long, and I would actually go long and expect gold to make higher highs. That would be my actually play to watch it on the weekly chart. And that would be good for a very long-term play for a couple of years, as I do think gold is going to increase, especially with the inflation and how I think inflation is closer to 4 or 5%, if not higher, especially with how much money printing has been going on. So I do believe that there could be some higher prices for gold in here, but we do need to see the right price action play out, and that's the right price action. I need to see a potential head and shoulders, or a nice support here, because we've got a low, we've got a higher low, so they've got a support, and we need a third support here before we really get a good spring higher. If not, if we were to go lower, we would expect it to bounce off this short-term low. As you can see, we came down quite big. We came up, we're testing the short-term low, and we got a wick through, sold, and now we could have a little bit of a sell-off. But again, any break above here is bullish, and a break below here could still be bullish, as we just our testing stops. But we need to see if it is bear trend bars or if they're doji bars like these ones. We need to make that distinction clear. Coming in here to the daily chart, as you can see now, we can see this higher low actually come in better. So we've got the low, we've got the high low, and we've got bull trend bars coming off. That's what we want to see. We want to see, even if it's a tiny lower low, we need to see those bull trend bars, 1 and 2, and that's when we start to get those one-to-one measured move targets, and we can actually take a trade. And in my opinion, we have a much higher probability of actually being profitable, because we've waited for this higher low. We've got a bull trend bar exiting quite high, nearly completely on its high. It'd even look better if it was this bar down here, but very strong. Once you see that one, that's a confirmation. Now we're just going tight sideways, and we get another break higher. So we do need to see, we're coming up to these resistances. There's a bit of a resistance over in here. So cross coming through, and even through here, just through here, there's some resistance levels, and that's what we are tapping through over here. So we do need to see if we're going to make a third higher low, potentially coming down to this area in here, and then getting some nice bull trend bars, and then getting long over there, putting your stops there, and then looking for a long. Okay, thanks very much for tuning into this video where we did a market overview for many markets. We have got a bit of a request to do that, so I'm glad you enjoyed. I hope you enjoyed. If you'd like to check out my course, check out the links below. I've also got an affiliate link to a crypto website. which get you some cheaper fees and some free dollars. So thanks very much for watching. See you in the next video.